And so we're taking a wait and see attitude over the next couple of days before we let too much more fuel. And we're monitoring their fuel usage. Fuel is a minor part of what they owe us, but we just don't want that to get it racked up. So the other issue that we will look at and want to talk with you about, right now, we have about $1.3 million in our customer facility charge account. That comes from all of the rental car customer purchases. They are charged $1 per transaction day, each rental car customer, which goes into the kitty for capital facility improvements and maintenance of the rental car areas. Hertz's contribution to that over the last few years has been about $250,000. So there certainly is enough there to cover their default. And we are, looking into and want to talk with Matt about, what any pitfalls we may have in trying to access those funds to cover ourselves and make us whole. Some of the other rental cars might get upset about it. My answer to them would be, when you go bankrupt, we'll do the same for you. But that's I wanted to give you sort of in a nutshell the position we're in on that. It's par for the course. This is really unusual, but we certainly have had major companies go bankrupt in the past. I can send around a statement that shows what they owe and from where. It's really a bunch of smaller invoices, mostly to do with the MAG payments that they owe us, April, May, and March. But that's where we're at on that. And so just wanted to get your sort of approval to start looking at our CFC account, see what we can do. At some point, we'd have to do a resolution to transfer money from the CFC over to general fund if that's something that is found to be acceptable. But this is
Craig Carter here.
Yes, Craig.
Alan, my only concern, and we have those funds for the capital improvements. Will, I know you say you're going to reach out to Matt and have this discussion, but I don't want to get 8-9 years down the road and have it bite us in the rear end. And I could sort of understand the position of the other rental car companies that are all contributing equally and fairly. So that's just, I would like to have more background on that personally.
Sure. So just so you know, that the amount that we would transfer over in terms of any of our rental car related parking improvements, it's pretty minor. We have a lot more money in there really than we need right now. We just rebuilt the car wash units. Those are in great shape. The building's in good shape. We just replaced the electronics for the self-fueling pump over there. So really, we're in very good capital shape over there. This would be a minor amount. And of course, once things come back online, they would quickly replenish. So right now, we don't have any of this funding earmarked for the parking garage, although that's been discussed as maybe an opportunity to do that. And we don't have any of it earmarked for any other projects. It's really rental car related only at this time. I hope that answers some of your questions anyway.
It does, Alan, and then, we could get more background on it. That'd be great, but thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
I move that we explore the use of the customer facility charge to cover the anticipated default. Obviously, we'd have to go through another vote for this, but at least let's get it on the floor.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do I have a second for that?
Madam Chair, Mr. Diedenbach will second that.
Excellent. Any further discussion or questions on this motion to explore the customer facility charge for the Hertz situation? Okay, all those in favor of exploring the use of customer facility charge collections to cover the anticipated default?
Aye. Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Okay, then motion carries. Alan, you can explore the use of the CFCs.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. On to item number 5, short-term non-aeronautical interest in a portion of the Eclipse hangar.
So this came up very suddenly here in the last few days, this week actually, where a local commercial realtor had approached us on behalf of a client, was Rory Cassell from Colliers International, to rent a portion of the Eclipse hangar for a packaging materials company for a year to 18 months. Suzanne is putting up a floor plan showing the Eclipse hangar. I wanted to get this before you only because time was of the essence, and we really didn't know what they were going to offer or what they were going to need. So we went ahead and put it on the agenda. I just got their proposal before the meeting earlier today, and I'm not, as enthused about it. I wasn't really that enthused to begin with, I guess, because it is a big decision to do something like this. But I guess I'm less so right now. This company was looking to have basically some warehouse space. They would stack it with fixtures that pack cardboard and styrofoam and things of that nature. And we have a lot of airplanes in there. And so even though we thought, well, maybe we could work something out and still accommodate our aircraft, there's a certain risk on bringing people in, segregating with temporary fencing, and just the opportunity for fire or things of that nature made me a bit squeamish. But originally we were talking to them about renting all of the back of the house storage spaces, of which they have 2 highlighted, and they did not highlight the third. So the 2,000 square foot storage area, 825 square foot storage area, and then they were looking for a portion of the main hangar, which when we originally met was just the corner of it, not from front to back, which really limits our aircraft accessibility. So also, I did not give them a price, but I told them that we would not be satisfied with the $6 per square foot that we were advertising the building for on a short-term lease that would require, this kind of accommodation. The proposal came in for $4.50 per gross foot, and that they would pay their prorated share of the electric. When those lights get turned on over there, we get hit with some serious demand charges, and at our current GRU rates, electricity is very expensive. So we have an understanding and agreement with all of our airplane tenants that we use very minimal lighting over there. So if we prorate it, they're going to see the bill go way up to accommodate this use, would be my expectation. And then we would have to go back to our aircraft tenants to pay a portion of that, 2/3 of it, really, a little less than 2/3. So, but I did want to get this in front of you, hear your thoughts on it. The other issue is that they would put in fixtures on the floor, and they want to put fasteners in the concrete floor, which has an epoxy urethane coating. I asked them to give me details on that. It'd be 150 holes they want to drill in the hangar floor, and they'd have to fill those with epoxy going out. So as I told Chair Horvath earlier when I spoke about this in advance of the meeting, prior to COVID-19, actually right up until in March, when this thing was going on, before travel was really restricted and people were locked down, we had two maintenance operations and 1 flight school that were expressing interest in the building and were kind of on the fence as to what they were going to do. And this kind of, the whole COVID-19 thing squashed all of them. But as to whether any of them would have gone through, we were very accommodating and talking about all kinds of options. And so if we were to do this commit for a year or 18 months, obviously if somebody came to us and had an immediate need for the building when things come back, we would not be able to accommodate them. Right now, all of our leases for aircraft right in there are on a month-to-month basis. And we've always kept that flexibility. I'm not saying that that will happen, that something will come by within a year or 18 months, but you know, there is that risk. And at $4.50 a square foot, I wasn't as willing to consider that, me personally, as I would be at $10 a square foot. So, which is more the neighborhood of where I was thinking. They were in need of space quickly, that, you know, and we were able to accommodate without too much difficulty. You know, we were certainly open to it.
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
If he's not comfortable with it, I'm certainly not. I'm going to vote no.
Madam Chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, I agree. Also, one, the rent's too low. Us putting 150 holes in our floor and committing us to a year just for $84,000. I just think it's risky. And I'm not sure all of our tenants would appreciate people in the hangar and not knowing what we're putting in there with their jets. And it's atypical of the airport. So I also would not be in favor of this.
And I would agree with you. This is Bob speaking.
Bob. And Jerry, you agree with that as well?
Yeah, the structural integrity of the hangar really is in two components. It's in the concrete floor, and then it's in the steel members that hold the body of it together. I can't believe anyone could drill 150 holes without shattering or fracturing that floor, and then repair cost on that in the future is well in excess of the $4 a square foot that we would reap from this. I don't think this is a good idea.
Okay. Anybody else wish to weigh in? Ms. Calderwood, Mr. Wright?
Yes, Madam Chair. I know Roy Casso is a very professional person, very upstanding, and the fact that he brought this in, I think our consideration would illustrate to him that we are considering it in good faith. However, I share the same concerns that have been voiced before, but in getting back with Mr. Casso, you know, sharing with him those concerns, it doesn't reflect negatively on him. It's just that with this tenant, I personally don't think the risk is worth the little bit that they're going to pay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Mr. Wright, did you want to weigh in on this, or you're?
I wish every decision in life were this easy.
Very good. Well, yeah, Mr. Thomas?
I call the question.
Call the question. Okay. I don't think, we don't need a vote on this. Do you want to vote on this, Alan?
No, I think we have a sense of the board. We'll, you know, rather than take a vote, we don't really need to, I guess. We'll just tell Mr. Casso that you've discussed it and you're not in favor under the terms. I guess in the event that he were to come back and say, hey, well, okay, now we'll go to some higher level per square foot. I guess it would be good to get a vote in terms of whether you think that even at a higher level, this would be something that you would want to pursue.
Madam Chair. Craig Carter.
Yes.
My concern would go along with Mr. Diedenbach that the unforeseen damages and the cost to fix that, bringing heavy jets in, and we would want engineering first. And if they're on a tight schedule, I don't even think we can meet that. And I agree, Rory is a great guy, and I appreciate he brought it, but I wouldn't be comfortable even in the $10 to $12 range. It's not the money, it's the damage that could happen in losing our other jets.
Alan, this is Bob. The one other point I would make is I would think that they would pay the whole electric bill over what it's been averaging. We don't pick our other tenants with, you know, their prorated share.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So would it make you comfortable if we went ahead and did, as Mr. Thomas suggests, call a question and call a vote on this? Oh, Mr. Conrad, I'm sorry, I didn't see you on there. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Grace. Yeah, I think we should give Alan discretion to continue to work with him. I'd hate to have a vote and cut him off. They may come up with a better offer, and I'd like to keep the dialogue open. let Alan continue to talk with Rory and maybe come back with something better. Obviously, if they offer us something that it's not going to be a good deal, we'll vote it down. But I'd hate to pull the rug out from under it right now, knowing just what I've learned in the last 5 minutes on it.
Okay. Anybody else? Jerry? Jerry, you're on mute. There's going to be a YouTube about this eventually.
Thank you. I would say to add a little bit of additional perspective, there isn't an aircraft in there that is less than the value of what that rent is. That rent would be a fraction of the cost of any of those aircraft in there. So a valid consideration.
Very good. All right. Well, so Mr. Conrad, you have made your point. You would like anyone to be able to continue with the conversations. It sounds to me like the board is in agreement. We don't like this idea, but is there harm in having Alan go ahead and finish his discussions with Mr. Casso and come back to us with more information?
I guess I don't want to lead them on when they're trying to make a decision. I think they're under a tight time frame. I do appreciate, Mr. Conrad giving us the flexibility. It's just, we don't have another board meeting. And if it's not something that we would be interested, even at $10 or $12 a square foot, I just soon tell them, hey, move on, bring us the next one and we'll work with you if we can. We have rented those back storage areas before, and I was hoping that they would be satisfied with those in just a corner of the hangar. But their needs are more than what I would have anticipated. And the impact is going to be, and we don't know at this point really, as Mr. Diedenbach said, what the attitude and Mr. Carter said, what the opinions of those that are in there would be and how comfortable they will be. But, at making $150,000 a year versus, 60, we probably have a more serious discussion with those guys and say, hey, you're going to have to suck it up a little bit. But I don't really think that this group is going to be able to pay or wants to pay that kind of money at this point. So, I mean, I'll be very frank with them, but I just don't want to tell them something you didn't want me to tell them, to lead them on and then come back and say, nah, we still don't like that kind of thing. I'd rather sort of say, hey, the board just really, you're not in the ballpark really to make this worth our while.
Madam Chair, Calderwood. Chair, I'd be happy to make a motion that we would decline this proposal presented by Collier for the leasing of that facility.
Thank you, Ms. Calderwood. Do we have a second on that?
Ken and I second.
Kenan seconds that. Any further discussion on the topic? Okay, all those in favor of declining the proposal?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, well, Alan, we all definitely respect and appreciate Rory Casso for sure, but I think you can feel comfortable with our reasoning behind the decision.
Yeah, the good thing is we did give them some info on what's available in the industrial park. And I think at some point we probably should advertise those properties on CoStar LoopNet a little better, and sort of, the city really markets that, but we probably need to step in and do some additional over there. And who knows, something, once we get through this, maybe we'll be back. I'm going to reach out to all three of those folks that came and looked at the hangar in the last few months and just try and maintain relationships. Some of them have been, the last correspondence was not that long ago, but I just want to stay in touch with them.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for sharing with it. It's very, very interesting to learn what they want to do with it. But I think everybody made a lot of salient points on the downsides. Is Debbie here with us? We are ready to move on to a tenant report. Do we have anybody here to provide? There you are, Debbie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Okay. All right. So I'm joining by phone. So thank you thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all of the board members. I can echo some of the things that Alan said. We've been looking at fuel sales and ramp traffic. Ramp traffic has bounced back, I would say a good bit. We probably have about 50% of the ramp traffic that we used to have. The challenge that we have is a number of aircraft are tankering fuel, either because they are fearful of coming into an FBO that is not their home FBO, or they just feel like they're getting a better deal at home. When you look at the three categories of fuel, our avgas is almost flat to normal. We're only down about 20% in avgas. So pistons are flying, and they're coming to Gainesville. Our retail fuel sales have bounced back to be down only 50%, and it's hard to say only and down 50% in the same sentence, but that's again, we were down as far as 75 to 80%. So we're definitely seeing a little bit of a bounce back there. And consignment fuel is down 70%. We've already talked about that. We met with our fuel provider today, and they gave us some data nationally about Part 135 and Part 91 operators. And nationally, the trend is that everything kind of bottomed out the weekend of April, or the week of April 4th, with 22,000, almost 23,000 flights flying that week. Last week, we had 48,000, almost 49,000. So we're almost doubling where we were. And the first 4 days of this week, we've had 25,315 flights in the air. So business travel is starting to come back. We think that that's going to come back before commercial traffic comes back, and we tend to monitor that. The hardest thing that we're having is we can't really identify a clear trend to say we feel like we're going to have these fuel sales back by such and such of a day, but we do go through the exercises every week or so to see how they're doing. Other than that, our air taxi business has bounced back. The medical flights are flying. I think it took a while for the transplant, for UNOS and for the transplant procurement coordinators to kind of get their plan for how they would handle decisions based in the pandemic world, and they've done that. And so, in fact, 2 weeks ago, we flew 28 medical missions, and last week we flew 25 medical missions, and our average is 24. So, so we feel good about that. We're continue to be optimistic. We expect the best, and we plan for the worst, and that's what's going on at UAC. Thank you.
Very good. Very good report. Thank you, Debbie, for sharing. Does anybody have any questions for Debbie? Okay, well, hearing none. Is there any further airport authority input today?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Carter, just want to thank staff and Alan particularly. It's amazing how you guys are still doing everything you're doing and keeping all of the wheels rolling, and upping the construction, and just you're doing everything right, and it just amazes me. Congratulations to you and your entire staff, sir.
Well, thank you. We wish we had a full building, because it gets a little disheartening when you come in and you see a big empty building, but it is getting better. There's a lot more life in the building this week than there has been previously, so we're really encouraged.
You'll have a full building soon.
We'll be back. We'll all be back. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for helping us run a very smooth meeting and get through these decisions that we need to make today. Alan and your staff, everybody, thank you for doing such a good job putting everything together for us so that we can meet efficiently and productively for you. And maybe next time we'll get to meet in person. And if not, we've proven our ability to master this technology. We'll do it again if we have to.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
meeting adjourned.
Thank you all. Take care.
Everybody.
All right.